Hey, what's going on YouTube? Today I'm going to show you my Werewolf PVE build for the Sending Ties DLC patch. This build is capable of pulling over 100k on the parse dummy and is viable for most group content. For this particular build, I'll be optimizing for the highest possible DPS within the constraints of my skill, therefore mythics and trial gear will be used. This build is meant to be used in organized group content, as I said earlier, most notably trials and dungeons. Although not optimized for solo content, it can still be used for most of that as well. So starting off in the character sheet, I have 64 points in a stamina and I'm running the Thief Mundus. So for the race, I am a Dark Elf. I think Dark Elves have some of the best passives for stamina DPS, and because this is a Werewolf build, I'd like to point out that I am a Sorc. Sorcs have some of the best inherent class passives that affect Werewolf. Moving on to consumables, so for food, we have 3 different options. For anything hard, I'd recommend RTM Takeaway Broth. A cheaper and almost just as good alternative would be Dubious Camera on Throne. And if you're parsing or just need more sustain in general, Lava Food Soup and Salt Rice is always the go-to. So on Werewolf, Potions is an interesting one. The fact that you don't need Major Brutality or Major Savagery, because being in a Werewolf and having access to Werewolf skills gives you them inherently, which means that you only need Major Endurance, which can be just acquired through regular Essence of Stamina or trash potions, as we call them. In terms of Werewolf Sustain isn't great, so I definitely recommend running a potion that can proc Sustain by Suffering. Sustain by Suffering is a red CP node that gives you increased recovery when you're under a negative effect. You can proc the negative effect yourself as well. 2 easy ways to do it is, one is to make Essence of Stamina potions with Minor Breach on it, and another alternative will be making Essence of Stamina potions with Minor Timidity. The Minor Breach potions does lower your resistance just a little bit, so they're kind of harmful. But on the other hand, the Minor Timidity, which consumes your ultimate, which has no effect because when you're in a Werewolf, losing ultimate doesn't do anything. These potions do proc Sustain by Suffering, as I said earlier, but Timidity one with no negatives can cost a bit, so that's up to you. And as always, regardless of what you do, make sure you have 3 points into medicinal use from the alchemy skill line to benefit from the buffs for the full duration. Next up for CP, for the blue tree, we're going to be running Backstabber, Thaumaturge, Deadly Aim, and Master at Arms. For the red tree, we're going to be running Sustained by Suffering, Rejuvenation, Fortified, and Balanced Vitality. So for gear, we're going to start off with Pillar of Nirn as our first set. We're going to be running daggers, which means that we're going to have Nirn honed with a poison damage on the main hand and a charged flame damage on the offhand. For the back bar, we have Maelstrom Perfected Greatsword. For the helmet, we're going to be running One Piece Light Slime Crawl with max stam traded in divines, and for the body we're going to have 5 pieces of Arms of Reliquin, all divines with max stam. And for the pants or leg slot, we're going to be running Harpooner's Waiting Kilt in divines with max stam as well. And for the jewelry, we're going to be running 3 pieces of Pillar of Nirn jewelry, all with weapon damage enchants traded in Bloodthirsty. So for skills, we're going to be running Brutal Pounce, Howl of Agony, Ferocious Roar, Claws of Anguish, Hiracine's Rage, and Werewolf Berserker. So some skills you can use before you transform: Deadly Cloak, Stampede, Dark Deal, and Hurricane. And these are known as your pre-buff skills because you can use them before you transform and the effects carry on for their duration even while you're in Werewolf. Very quickly, for the pre-buff, we start off with a Dark Deal, into a Hurricane, into a Stampede, and then Bar Swap, Blade Cloak, and then just go into your Werewolf. So for the basic rotation, we're going to do 2 Brutal Pounces, into a Claws of Anguish, into a Hiracine's Rage, and 4 or 5 Howl of Agony. So the reason why I say 4 or 5 is because after you cast Brutal Pounce, you only have a certain amount of time before your stacking buff dissipates. So if you're really fast at casting skills, then you'll be able to fire off 5 Howl of Agonies before your Brutal Pounce stacks disappear. So Brutal Pounce is kind of a tricky skill in that you have to cast it twice for you to benefit from it fully. And on top of that, there is a stacking mechanism to it. So what I mean by that is, first off, you have the initial cast where you do a bleed damage effect, and then the second time you cast it, you'll do another bleed. On top of that, it's a pseudo execute, which means it does more damage the less health the enemies have. Furthermore, the most important part is the fact that every time you cast it up to 6 times, your weapon and spell damage are increased by 100. Now this, as I said, stacks up to 6 times, so if you lose the effect, you start at 0, and you don't want to do that. So That's why if you don't have the ability to cast 5 Howl of Agonies within the rotation and your Brutal Pounce buff expires, then it's better to cast it 4 times. So moving on to closing thoughts. First off, I was running Zovgian last patch, but I don't know, Pillar of Nirn just feels like it does more damage. I don't know why. I was having more success with Zovgian last patch, but this patch I'm literally getting the same numbers, and it was actually easier to hit 100k with Pillar of Nirn, at least for me. I did test out Basai. It was really hard to correctly manage the Magicka because one cast of Hircine's Rage was not enough to completely mag out and, you know, utilize Basai, and the fact that you have to have low Magicka to benefit from it. So I wasn't able to execute it properly. I'm sure somebody better than me can probably do it, but personally I wasn't able to do it. And I was getting like 80-90k with it, so it wasn't great. So that wraps up the build explanation section of this portion. As always, thank you for watching my video. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to leave them in the comment section below, or just come join our Discord. Link is in the description. As a reminder, if this video helped in any way, please help the channel grow by subscribing and liking the video. And if you like the piggies, like the video. Feel free to stick around for an attached parse and outfit section at the end. If not, have a good day, and thank you again.